Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. I'm excited. Look at this smile. Why? Because this story is about, it's not even about second chances. Let me spit it to you the way it needs to be spitted. Opportunities happen for a reason. Setbacks happen for a reason, but new birth brings new life, new enjoyment, and more importantly, a chance to tell a different version of your life, its purpose, and its meaning to the world. Today, I'm blessed. No, not blessed. I'm overjoyed because the gentleman on our show today, I followed his career recently, and has had a tremendous journey, to say the least, with more to come. He's coming on the show today to share an in-depth view of his life, his journey, the opportunities, the setbacks, and more importantly, the rebirth. Check out what I said, the rebirth of a new journey in his life. I'd like to welcome to the show the future star of the Puerto Rican Latino, the world. Because I don't believe in all this different nationality. I believe in the world. We all bleed red when it's all said and done. The one, the only, the next movie star, Mr. Angelo. I'm gonna get the last name correctly. Maldonado Jr. Did I get it right?
You nailed it. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the show, big guy. You know, we did a pre-interview, and I am so happy for you. Let's get real. We won't talk about the great opportunity that just came to you. We'll wait that towards the end. But I'm really happy for you, and I'm glad that you took the time to come on the show and share your journey into this new horizon that you're about to embark in. Before we get started, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are outside of being a movie star. Who are you without being labeled the movie star?
Well, first and foremost, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City, to two Puerto Rican parents. And, I grew up in an area called Borough Park, which was predominantly Hasidic religious Jewish people. It was similar to Williamsburg, if those who are familiar with the Brooklyn community. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up, just this chubby kid in the neighborhood who, grew up on the with the hip hop and just, just loving, music. I come from a musical background as well.
Right.
My grandfather, God rest his soul, he was a famous guitarist and singer. He was in a Spanish group. And so, music was in my blood. And I realized at a young age, I was able to sing. And so fast forward, years would go on and I started to rap and started to, I actually was the first ever Hispanic Puerto Rican hip hop and R&B artist to ever be on a national television show, which was the Carson Daly Show when he was filming in New York City. I actually performed alongside Wyclef Jean, Grammy nominated. We all know who Wyclef is from the Fugees. So yeah, that's just a little bit. I'm just giving you little sprinkles here and there, but
okay.
We'll,
you didn't
so
you didn't tell me you can rap.
Yeah. I was initially born with the gift to sing. Being in the hip hop, growing up, just being in Brooklyn and just, in New York City, and being in, now that I'm in my late 40s, it was just, and hip hop is like maybe 51 years old, I think it is now. Mm-hmm. I was lost in that. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for the world, and if I was, reborn again, you know what I mean? And similar to some of the things you were saying, I definitely want to embrace that culture the way I have, and I still continue to this day. So,
what's it like growing up, you don't hear much about the Puerto Rican community. Anytime you hear anything about New York, the Bronx, and all that, one of my best friends, Lachey, he's from he worships New York. Like, oh my God, anything is New York, New York, New York. Um, but you don't hear that much about the Puerto Rican community. What was it like for you growing up? Did you guys intermingle with like say the black communities and so forth, or were you guys just pretty much a self-contained community?
No, I think something that's not really promoted or put in the atmosphere as much is the fact that, we were one, and I believe that we still are,
Mhm.
even in 2024, the Black community and Hispanic community. Like, there was a kinship, there was a brotherhood, you know what I mean? There wasn't this rivalry where, the Spanish people against we actually, if you really think about it, um, we would go to all the same places to get all, to cop all smoke, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
we all, would see each other, and the respect that we had for each other was similar to the respect that people would have in their own culture. So like
right,
if you were in a community and it was predominantly, let's just say 99% black or
right,
99% Hispanic, there was the respect factor that we had for those individuals in our community who held it down,
right,
who had how could I say, who were well respected, and maybe they put, they earned their stripes, for lack of better words.
right.
And so we revered and honored the, other cultures the same way. So I think that, there was this kinship and this connection that the Black and Hispanic community have. Just with us, I think we just played a more of a laid back role, whereas we really, ironically, you just think about it, we didn't get the type of recognition that maybe we're starting to slowly get now, because
Right,
we didn't demand it. You know what I mean? We were just like, we were content knowing, where
right,
other people were like, listen, hey, this is what I'm doing. You gonna know who I am. You gonna
right.
recognize who I am. And I think that that's what we started to learn from the Black community, where they were like, listen, you gonna recognize. And I think with us, that wasn't so pronounced in the way we dealt with things like that.
It's funny that you said that. I mean, that can be good, bad, or indifferent to
Sure.
how you're looking at it. But because I don't know much about the Puerto Rican community, like I said, the only Puerto Rican actor or actress that I knew was what was her name? Rosie, not Rosie.
Rosie Perez. You said you
No,
mentioned Rosie Perez, yeah.
yeah, that just shows you. And we talked about this. I am glad that 50 Cent, we'll get to that later, is giving you guys the opportunity to showcase talent. Now, let me finish on this note. We all hear about the different role models that are in different culture communities. We know about the George Washingtons, the Abraham Lincolns. We know about the Marcus Garveys, the Malcolm X's, the Huey Newtons. Who were some of the role models that really impacted your life in your community? Because we don't hear about these things in our history books.
Well, I think when if I were to, I guess, correlate it with an actor,
Mhm.
I think one of the biggest role models for me within my own culture would be John Leguizamo. And one thing about John Leguizamo was the fact that he came into a business, and they weren't really casting people that looked like him.
Right.
And he came from New York City, and he went through the struggle, and he did everything he could do to make sure that, listen, I'm not going to stop, I'm not going to quit.
Mhm.
And I mean, he's been in this business for well over 35 years or something to that effect.
Mhm.
So I think he was one of those that inspired me tremendously when it pertains to someone within my own culture. But if I could veer off and just speak about, like, generalize it,
Yeah.
one of the biggest sources of encouragement and inspiration I believe that I've always had was in the acting world too, I'll continue with that, and then maybe I'll segue really quickly into music, was Denzel Washington. Now you hear him being spoken about a lot. You know, he's
Yeah.
considered one of the GOATs, and
Right.
but I think for me, you know, I didn't really necessarily look at someone's talent and have that as something that I looked up to. You know, like Denzel could be the greatest actor, and he's considered one of the greatest. But what I look at is a character. I look at the person outside, because you know what? They're not acting every day.
Right.
You know, who are they outside of that?
Mm-hmm.
And so with Denzel and John, these were two individuals that, from what I know of, and from the things that you see and you hear, were two individuals who just loved people and wanted to help people. And you could see that they were the same outside of that. So to me, I envied, you know, just, you know, the things that they would do, you know, and wish that I could have had the opportunities, and I pray that I will. But more so, and I'll end it with this part, was the character, just the integrity, they're very integral, you know what I mean, and what they do. Everyone has their opinions, and everyone, you know, especially with John Leguizamo, he's very boisterous from a political standpoint, but we leave that alone. I'm talking about him as a character, an individual. Yeah, those were two people that I can think of for the sake of time that just really popped up into my mind. And again, it's really just because of their character, you
How
know.
how hard is it? And let me also say thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your story, but and to educate because you're definitely educating me right now. I'm walking in your shoes because I think what happens as humans or individuals, we don't take the time to really walk in somebody else's shoes.
Right.
What is it like? How difficult was it for you to get that first opportunity in acting? Because you know you don't see many of your kind getting these opportunities, but you're good at what you do.
Well, I'll rewind a little bit further. I'll go back even further as
Okay.
being, you know, a signed hip hop and R&B artist from Brooklyn. You know, getting into music, you know, this is way, you know, before I got into acting, and I have a um, really impactful story that I believe is important to share on why I became an actor.
Okay, go ahead.
And I want to share. But in regards to music, you know, it was extremely tough for me because, one, my name is Angelo, right? Angelo is typically connected with an Italian name, right? So if you hear Angelo, oh, Angelo, you would typically, you know, I would always get the, hey, this guy Paisan, and then Italian. I would always get that type of.
Yeah.
And then growing up in Borough Park, we're literally a 5-minute walk from Bensonhurst, which is where Al Sharpton had walked years ago, and he, you know, there was, you know, a lot of racism in that area, you know, against the Black community. But again, you know, I was always, you know, this guy with Italian name, looked Italian, definitely didn't really look as Spanish as obviously some other people that, you know, you'd see walking around Hispanic. And so for me, it was tough to break into the music industry because I was, one, I was heavy set. Two, you know, I sang and I rapped. And at that era, everything was like Onyx and gangster rap. And it's just like, you know, and if you wasn't like beating up your dog and punching the mailman and you know what I mean, and shooting trees and robbing your local 7-Eleven like you weren't a thug, right? So for me, and I say that jokingly, I'm not encouraging anybody to go that direction. But yeah, so for me, it was tough because I always had to show a side, like, listen, don't get it confused. Don't think because I sing that I won't punch you in the face, like I won't knock your ass out, right? Respectfully. But at the same time, so it was such a complex thing for me to fight all of the, you know, the obvious things that people would see from a visual standpoint. And then the era where everything was just extra gangster and tough, and you know, the 50 Cent type mindset where it was like, listen, if you ain't real, you're a victim. And
Right.
so for me, having to show people like, look, I'm talented in both areas. Nobody's doing this but Lauryn Hill. But mind you, she's a female,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's a Black female who could sing and rap. The only person that during my era that was actually doing, she actually was another inspiration. I forgot to mention her. One of the biggest inspirations musically because
Right.
of her versatility. But it
Right.
was tough because again, I had, I didn't walk around looking the part. I was always heavy set. You can't just get clothes anywhere. When you're a big guy or big
Right.
person, all the fluffy folk watching, they know you can't just walk in anywhere and get clothes. You know what I mean? I wish it was like that.
Yeah.
So I was like the big and tall, or stretch a shirt till it had no more life to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, but it was tough. It was tough in that realm. And yeah. So and then I guess as I became an actor, it was a different animal in itself, and I'll definitely get to that.
When you got that first opportunity to be an actor, what was it?
Um, Ironically, it was a series regular role on a show called Danny's House,
Yeah, I
right?
remember that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, when Danny's House, rapper Danny Brown from Detroit, Danny Brown actually is managed by um, Rosenberg, who is I believe it's Paul Rosenberg, who is the manager of Eminem. He manages Eminem. He also is a label owner. He owns a label called Goliath Records.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, he signed a good friend of mine named Nems, Gorilla Nems. He goes by. He's the one that's known as saying "Bing Bong" and
Yeah.
that craze and stuff like that. He's doing great things and stuff like that from Coney Island. But yeah, so yeah, I'm not too sure if I answered the question. I think I may have veered off. Did I answer you? I'm not sure.
That's all right. What I was asking you was when you got that first opportunity. Let me redo it. When you got that first opportunity, how was it, and how did you prepare for it?
Oh yeah, so with the Danny Brown show, it was literally 3 weeks before. Um, I just started acting 3 weeks prior. Like I made the decision, I'm gonna act, and then all of a sudden, my wife tells me, "Hey, babe, there's this role. Do you want to submit?" And I'm like, "Listen, whatever, just whatever you see, submit me for it." I didn't know much about acting. I was kind of YouTubing it, just trying to get an idea. Mind you, I'm in my early 40s, started in late
Hold
2018. I
down a
didn't know
minute.
nothing.
You mean you can YouTube on how to be an actor?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's people who, you can pretty much YouTube anything nowadays. You know what I mean? You can YouTube just about anything. But there were videos of people who talked about the business,
Okay.
and there was one lady in particular named Wendy Elaine Wright, and she would have these videos, and she was very outspoken. She kind of reminded me of this loudmouth New Yorker, and I don't mean loudmouth in a sense of like I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but just like, hey, listen, she'll speak her mind, she'll throw a little
Right.
profanity out, excuse
Right.
me, and so I just instantly resonated with her. But watching her videos, it was so straightforward that all I needed was just to find a couple little things that I needed to understand about the business. And once I knew that, I was able to run with it. You know what I mean? And because again, when you're in the entertainment business, there's a lot of promoting, self-promoting,
Right.
practicing your art, your gift. I'm rapping and singing. I'm rapping every single day, singing every single day. So what would be the difference? And so when I realized that it really wasn't much of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it was still cutthroat in both businesses.
Right.
It's a who kind of business. There was so many similarities. So when I got Danny's House, which was on Vice Land at the time, they're now Vice TV. Rapper Danny Brown, again, who signed to Paul Rosenberg, which is he owns Goliath Records, and you know um, so it was a big deal. I got that opportunity, did the audition, and I just remember when I was called, I'm like, really? I'm like, man, I'm doing this 3 weeks. Are you serious? Are they sure that they want me for this role? Because again, it was national television, main character. I was one of the main characters, and yeah, and it was life changing. This is back in 2019. Yeah.
Did you have to You, I get the fact that, you know, you're an entertainer. You started out rapping, you got signed with a major record deal, but this is acting now. Did you have to go to acting school? Like, I know you did. You realize that you probably had to read a script? Was you prepared for the next journey? Because you get the job, but I'm pretty sure you have to have had some type of theater or knowing how to read these scripts.
The experience that I had was a life experience.
Okay, that's deep.
And so you'll find if you really take the time and people take the time to listen and hear some of these actors, there's some that have never taken formal acting classes.
Really?
There are some, and some of them are Oscar award winning actors. Some of them, I mean, the most profound and most prolific actors in the business. With me, you know, this particular role, which was called the exhausted delivery guy, right? That was the guy from that I was cast to be on Danny's House. And I remember just saying, man, I know how it feels to be exhausted at work and just frustrated and not wanting to. And so I remember at the time I was working, you know, for this company, and man, I was exhausted and frustrated. I was like, man, how do I bring this character to life? And so from the very beginning, I was able to internalize, I was able to take from within myself, which many people call it in the acting business. They call it, it's the word I'm looking for. They call it, man, I'm drawing a blank. It's called, oh man, it's called method acting. So what happens is you just kind of get lost in this world, and you just become that. For instance, somebody's going to be in a wheelchair in a scene, and you're a guy in a wheelchair throughout the whole movie. They'll spend a month in a wheelchair, and they'll just, you know, they just get lost in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so with that, you know, I just got, you know, it was just easy for me, and I found it so easy to get into character because a lot of the things that were being thrown my way were things that I had already life experience with.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I had to eventually at some point train and try to get an understanding of what it is to understand the art of acting and really understand, you know, the nuts and bolts of this business. But to be honest with you, in comparison to a lot of other actors, I just had it. I had the ability to adapt to a character without all of, you know, all of these major organizations and schools and stuff like that. It was just a natural thing for me.
What has there ever been a moment through your journey that you had to resort to getting trained or to immerse yourself in a character or a role that you completely had no life experience dealing with? And what was that like for you?
I have learned from quite a few people, like for instance, a gentleman named Ulysses S. Terrero, and he has a movement. You know, I call it a movement because it's really impacted many lives, called Acting Rehab.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been someone who's actually helped me to see life, because sometimes the best way to learn how to act is to not learn how to act. And and I'll say that again, the best way sometimes for some people to learn how to act is to learn how to not act. And I think that what happens is sometimes we go into things thinking with this pre-existing notion that we have to do something a certain way. And so when you have somebody that helps ground you and helps say, hey, hold on a second, just be you, and just allow yourself to really embrace what this character is about. Don't think too much of it, and just go. So it was almost a therapy session, if you would.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that kind of helps you. Again, I can't speak for everyone. Some people may need something more extensive, but for me, a lot of what has helped me in roles that I really couldn't connect to, that maybe that initially weren't something that I could draw from,
Right.
were with people like Ulysses and another gentleman that had passed away, his name escapes me. Man, it breaks my heart because he's a great guy. Jack Turnbull, I'm sorry, of actors site, and he was a gentleman that was just, all he did was he taught you how to just love yourself and really embrace every moment, regardless if you're connected to it or not. Even when he couldn't connect with some of just the Brooklynness and me being Brooklyn and just the Hispanic, he was the white guy in his 70s living in LA. He had no idea, but what he taught me was, hey, I may not be able to relate to you and everything else, but I don't have to act. I don't have to talk like you. You know how people, when they fake talk slang
Yeah.
and they try to act like they're down with you, like, yo, what's up, brother? Yo, homie.
Yeah.
And they do all this extra stuff. And you know that it's just
You know it's
really,
extra. Yeah.
yeah, it's extra. It's artificial. It's definitely, you know what I mean? It's definitely by far not Whole Foods material. So you just looking at them and you saying to yourself, like, hold on a second. That's very disingenuous. It seems fake. So with these two individuals and the first two individuals that popped up in my mind, they've taught me how to take any situation that I'm in, whether life or whether acting, and just allow myself to first take a step back, breathe, and just embrace who I am. And so it allowed me to have a blank slate. So that I didn't have to think about anything. All I was like, okay, feed me, download whatever it is that this character is about. And so what I would do is I would do research. They teach me to research. I try to adapt to, okay, where's this person from? They're from Ohio. Okay. All right. Well, what do Ohio people like? What do they do? And so it's like school, it's going to school.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff you can do on your own. So if you got a character description, once you get out of your own head and what you think needs to be done, and find people who can help ground you and help bring out the best in you. Because again, sometimes people don't need. So what I'm looking for, they don't need a speech. Some people don't need a speech. Sometimes people just need a hug. Sometimes people just need to be embraced.
Yeah.
So I think that applies to acting. And again, that's the most simplistic way I could say it. You know what I mean?
Have there ever been roles that you were uncomfortable playing?
Yeah. There was one particular role that was on MTV. It was called Revenge Prank.
Okay.
And Revenge Prank, I remember getting cast, and it was an MTV, and I'm thinking, man, this is great exposure. And this particular prank that they did was one of the most famous that they've had. It went viral. I mean, to this day, I get stopped. I'll get stopped in different stores, and when I go to the mall, forget about it. It's like, oh my God, you're the one from MTV, and but it was a prank that was in a funeral home. I mean, an actual funeral home, and it was really triggering for me, and I felt really uncomfortable. They wanted me to use a certain profanity, and and I am a man of faith. I believe in God, and I make my mistakes and things of that nature, but nonetheless, they wanted me to say some things that I didn't necessarily want to at the time. But ultimately, it was triggering for me because of the fact that there was, we're in, this funeral home, legit. It's not a fake set. This was an actual funeral home, and I had just come off, not even a year ago, of losing my dad, which is the reason why I got into acting, and I'll get into that. But yeah, that again, I'm grateful for the opportunity, but it really was very triggering for me. I had a full-blown panic attack.
Really?
I was in the bathroom. Yeah, one of the reasons why I'm a mental health advocate, as well. I had a full-blown panic attack, and mind you, this is all happening. They had the mark come in. Everything was moving, so I had to be ready. I was mic'd up. I'm in the bathroom talking to my wife. I'm like, come on, let's pray real quick. And I could barely breathe, and literally I had 10 minutes to get myself together. And yeah, and I remember fighting. I was actually in the scene, if you see it. I'm fighting through anxiety, and people would never know it.
Really?
You know what I mean? The same way I sang with Patti LaBelle about 3 years ago it was. I sang with her on stage, and I had a full-blown panic attack. You see me throughout the video. I'm putting my hand in my neck trying to feel my pulse. I'm having anxiety. It's tough. But yeah, that was when that one role, it was very triggering for me because I had lost so many relatives, you know what I mean? And my dad was was via suicide. My father took his life, so it was tough.
You said your dad, I'm sorry about that, your loss of your father, and the fact that you are a big advocate for mental health. This is a two-part question. Did you proceed with that role because you had an obligation to the people and the staff there, and that was part of your job? And then the second part of that question is, take the viewers from your heart, the loss of your father, and how it amplified you further into your acting career.
That's actually two great questions. I think for me, first and foremost, the reason that I became an actor, I would have to say this before I answer that. The reason that I became an actor was because my dad was one as well.
Okay.
Okay, my dad was an actor. He was also a former Marine. Actually, I don't like to say former, because once a Marine, always a
Always a
Marine.
Marine. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to honor him that way, and also any other Marine out there that's watching, or someone who may have lost a relative or loved one that is a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine, regardless if they're alive or, they're not. And so my dad was, he fought for the country, served this country well, but he battled with bipolar disease. He battled with PTSD, just things that he saw, things that he experienced while serving the country.
Mhm.
And so I think for me, becoming an actor and the whole purpose really was to carry on his legacy. I'm Junior. I'm Angelo Maldonado Jr. I'm his
Right.
firstborn son. So the way that I was able to grieve, the only way that I knew how to grieve, was to carry on his legacy and do what he couldn't do anymore because of his mental health struggles and his declining mental health issues. So any opportunity that I felt would catapult my career, um, I was not going to do anything to burn any bridges. Especially MTV. I mean, we all know the platform that they have had for, decades.
Right.
So to me, I felt like there was an obligation, obviously, one, to my dad first,
Right.
And not doing anything that would jeopardize the promise that I made to him, and again, that to carry on his legacy. So that applied to everything. Where I'm like, hey, I can't mess up and burn these bridges with the production company, with MTV, and with everyone else. And then at the same time, knowing that every opportunity was going to catapult me into a higher
Mhm.
position, which eventually would allow me to be able to speak life into people, and be able to also be the advocate. So it was multifaceted. There was a variety of things that were going through my mind, and also assisted me and motivated me to do what I did and what I'm doing.
What was it like for you? What was it like for you knowing that your father is your hero? Let's call it what it is, your hero. You carry on that last name, but at the same time, you clearly have to watch a great man who fought for this country, who fought to raise his family, to make a difference in everybody's life. You had to be there to watch him also become a victim of something he had no capabilities of winning. What was that like? What was that like for you to see that? And on top of that, what do you remember most about him, and what did he share with you before the decline?
One thing about my father was when he, I didn't know that he had mental health issues until I was in my early 30s.
Hmm.
So mind you, me and my mother, she got divorced from him at a young age, and he was abusive. He had a lot of stuff going on, but we always chalked his personality up to just, that's just who he was. That's
Right.
who he was. And, one thing about my dad, with his mental health issues and things of that nature, and the things that he was doing, he was always successful at anything that he did. So if he pursued cooking, he became a chef, and he, opened up a business, and everyone's coming. And then he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna start cutting hair. And then he opened up a huge salon, and he became great at you know what, I'm just gonna start drawing. And then he started to sell paintings. My dad was, some people say, jack of all trades, master of none. My dad was a jack of all trades, and he mastered all. right? So everything he did, he just was exceptional. And so what he taught me was like, listen, if you're gonna do anything,
Right.
um, if you're going to step into any arena, make sure one that you're mentally in a position to, to do everything that it takes, but also really believe in yourself and know like you got this, you got it. And so again, you hear these motivational speeches all the time.
Mhm.
People, you see them on social media all day and night. There's
Right.
always somebody that's out there trying to encourage you. But when you see a person and you start to realize, like, man, they have all of these things going against them, and they're moving, they're
Mhm.
moving and shaking, they're doing what they got to do. He taught me that no matter what obstacles you have in life, whatever you feel like you may not have, or things that are holding you back, that there is nothing at all that can stop you if you really, really are sold out in your mind, not sold out as an individual, but
Right.
sold out in your mind and in your heart and your spirit that I am going to do that. And so that's one major thing that my dad taught me, and it's something that I carry on to this day. Like I can rap, and not to toot my own horn, but really well. Damn it, you know what I'm saying? And then,
Look, I'm gonna Google.
and
I'm gonna find
because
some of your old music. I'm gonna find some of your old
Oh
music.
yeah. I mean, I collaborated with the platinum artist Mr. Cheeks.
Okay.
I've sang hooks for him and different people and rap. And so, and then and again, I still can't get the footage of me with Wyclef performing with Wyclef on the Carson Daly show. This is back in 2004. I wish I could get the footage. For some reason, I'm struggling to get the footage of that.
Okay.
But yeah, like again, it was just, he taught me what it was to continue to do things in spite of, and then also in spite of the support, because there were things that he was doing, and the people in our family were just, growing up in a minority household, and I'm sure that, many minorities can relate to, and I'll say this really briefly, if you weren't, and especially me being Spanish, if you weren't doing construction, like us Hispanics, us Puerto Ricans, for instance, I can't speak for everybody, but I just know with my household and the people that I know growing up,
Mhm.
if you wasn't doing no construction, no sheetrock, if you wasn't, doing maintenance or warehouse work, if you wasn't doing something real, just, just you weren't scraping your knuckles and just getting calluses on your hands and whatever, you wasn't a man.
Right. Right.
So here I am, teenager, becoming a young adult, and I'm like, man, I want to be an artist. I want to rap and sing, and they're looking at me like, man, get a real job, man. You a bum.
Yeah.
And so they looked at him as a low life and a bum because he was chasing after a dream that a culture, and the family were too scared to pursue. So again, I can get lost in that, but I'll just share that real
No,
briefly. But
you made perfect sense. And now that you have sometimes it just takes one. Let's be real. Sometimes it just takes one to amplify. And I believe you're going to be that one instrument that's going to be that amplification, that light to show that you can change the norm. And I think you hit it dead on the nose. We have to get out of this cultural mindset and this labelization that this is all you can be instead of doing exactly what you said. Believe it not here, believe it here and start to go. The obstacles you faced, you've overcome. How difficult was it for you to get back on the horse with the loss of your father?
I mean, there's so many things. I mean, we can go in so many different directions, but I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit again. Um, I attempted to take my life twice in this music industry. Imagine Wyclef offering you a production contract and saying, "Hey, man, I'm gonna make you famous." Taking me into a room after we performed on the Carson Daly show, and and then a year goes by and you don't hear from him. You call and you leave messages, and then finally after a year later, you track him down and you talk to him. You're like, "Hey, what's going on, man? I'm over here lying to people now. They wonder, hey, what's going on with your record deal with but that situation you had with Wyclef, and then when he talked to me, he told me, he said, listen, you got a lot of talent. He couldn't look me in the face though. And that, like, I knew it was hard for him to tell me. And says, you have a lot of talent. You're extremely talented. One of the most talented and versatile individuals I've ever met. You know what I mean? You remind me of Lauren in so many ways. But you're not marketable. It's hard for me to market you. It broke me. At the time, maybe 2-3 days later, I attempted suicide because I put all my eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
So for me to overcome that was prayer. Like I literally, after that, when I survived that attempt, I remember just crying and just emotional eating. And I sat and I said, God, you spare me for a reason. There's got to be something else. Whatever that is, I don't know. But if you're real, like the way I was taught that you were, I need you to save me because I can't save myself. And so again, you know, respect to everyone who has their own beliefs. I'm not here to, I love everyone, regardless if you believe in God or not, and what God you believe in. I'm not one of those type of individuals. But for me, I think that's what, helped me. But it was triggering. So when my dad took his life, it was overwhelming because something told me 3 weeks prior to go visit. Something told me, and something was just, it was, I couldn't explain what it was. I go see your father it was 3 weeks before he took his life.
It's almost like a sixth sense, sort of.
Yeah, it was something that happened. So some could say that it was God, whatever. I'm just trying to be sensitive to everyone that's watching because there's,
Right.
there's a multitude of people. But for me, I knew eventually that, I was able to correlate it and connect it with God, just, allow me to have that one last time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember begging my brother, who was 3 years younger than me. We're my father's only 2 sons. And I remember begging him, like, come on, man, we got to go there and check on dad because, he's not doing too well. My stepmother at the time, was telling me, she's like, man, he's not doing well. He said he wanted to kill himself, and he's been talking, he's been drinking, so she was concerned. I remember taking a flight out there, paid for my brother, did everything. I mean, he just was not helpful. It was a vacation for him. But I was going everywhere with my dad, every doctor. I'm gonna see his therapist. I'm gonna see his heart doctor. I'm going everywhere because I'm trying to see what's going on. His therapist didn't want to meet with me, refused to meet with me. That to me was a red flag. And then and I started to see all the medications that my dad had. So with all that being said, I was able to see my dad, and I begged and pleaded with him, Dad, please, Dad. You have 2 grandchildren. I'm the only one that gave you two daughters, 2 granddaughters.
Right.
Please live with me. I'll take care of you. So fast forward, I had him by hair. He was ready to commit. You could see also when you looked at him, he wasn't, like, I knew that my dad wasn't all the way there. Like, I knew that there was something going on, and he wasn't the dad that I remembered, but enough where he was able to comprehend what I was saying. And I remember begging him, and then all of a sudden my brother didn't get involved in any other thing, but he jumps in and says, you know what? Leave dad alone. If dad don't want to go, he don't have to go. He's a grown man. All my dad needed to hear was that. Damn. And then 10 seconds later, my dad said, yeah, Junior, Paul's right. I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay here. Okay. I wanted to kill my brother. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, literally.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to hold you. There was no question. And then what happens? 3 weeks later, I get the call, and my father took his life. And the irony was that my brother was able to convince my dad to make him the executor, and he wound up getting close to $500,000 of my dad's money because he was convincing my dad that I had some sort of motives. And so it was a lot going on. So for me to get over that, knowing that I was struggling, wife's handicapped, and I'm trying to deal with just raising kids and trying to get by, and to see my brother that didn't care if my dad was dead or alive, it was overwhelming for me. And I think that's why I ran to God and prayer, but also the way I was able to heal, and or at least somewhat heal, was to carry on the legacy which I mentioned and become an actor. So there's a lot of trauma that went into it, but in order for me to heal, was I got to get that SAG card, I got to get in the SAG after, I got to get in the union, and so everything was goals. Like, I'm going to get in, become an actor, got a role. It was encouraging. SAG after came shortly after that, and then slowly but surely got a manager, got an agent, and I just was lost in that, and that was kind of like a lot of us. Sometimes we get lost in things because we don't want to process certain traumas and certain things that have hurt us. So we'll get lost at work. Some people do 70 hours a week, and they'll just do things and party and drink, and we all have vices. So I think for me to get over that, again, long answer to a short question, but
Wow, that was
for me, I think it was ultimately, I still haven't fully healed, but every time I'm on set, every time I get closer to, to becoming a household name, little by little, it's healing me. It's healing that scar.
I'm gonna tell you what I hear from this, Angelo, is that was God, the universe, whatever you want to say, guiding you to do those things, to go get these things, to put these chess pieces on the board, and to remove certain chess pieces in order to evolve to where you at. That's a I can only imagine. My heart goes out to you, but more so it goes out to you because I see and I can feel the relentless passion that you have for life and to want to give something back. You have two daughters. You have two daughters. You have a wife. How do they feel about their dad and what they see in their dad, overcome and becoming that superhero?
They brag on me every day. They brag on me every day. And the irony is, my firstborn, who's going to be 17, ironically, next month. I don't even want to think about it. But when my father passed away in April of 2017, I think my daughter was about 9.5, something like that, 10, maybe, going to be about 10. And she said, I remember telling her, it was hard. It took me about a month to tell her. And then she said, "It's okay, Dad. Everything's going to be okay." She comforted me. She sold into me at 9.
Mm.
And she said, "You know what, Dad? Um, you're a good son. You were a good son to him, and you're a good dad to me. So I know where you got it from, and we're going to be there for each other." 9 years old, in a car.
Wow. Wow.
I'm in tears, and she goes, "You know what, Dad?" And then a couple of days later, I mentioned, like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna become an actor." She goes, "Dad, when you start, I'm gonna start." And then, lo and behold, my daughter became an actress as well.
Really?
And yeah, in fact, we wrapped on a film called The Messenger
Okay.
about 2 weeks ago, as a first film together.
Wow.
But so yeah, with them, it's just they brag on me so much. They're so proud to say that their dad, is in these films, and they'll tell people like, "Yo, check this, check this out. He's here, he's there," and they can go anywhere and put something on and see me at any given time. To me, it makes me feel it makes me feel great to know that they're proud of me. I think any dad, when they get that acknowledgement from their children, is a blessing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's I mean, they're my biggest supporters.
I'm your next
Ironically,
biggest supporter. I'm your next biggest supporter, man. This is such
matter
a
of fact,
beautiful story.
matter of
Yeah.
fact, my daughter, impromptu, she came to bring up my dinner. She hears, "Come down, say hi." They may not be
Hey,
able to see you. Come down. Hi.
hey,
You blurry, you blurry.
yeah.
I got the blurry background. She came down. She came up real quick. She didn't know I was on the podcast. So she brought my food over there. So again, they just they remind me, every single day, that even if I feel like no one is supporting me, even if I feel like, like what I do sometimes, people just don't appreciate it, or maybe I feel like I'm not making any headway in my
Right.
career, they remind me every day, like, "You know what, Dad? Like, we're your biggest stars. And it means something to me. It holds weight. And so, yeah, man, just to answer that question, it means a lot. And then my daughter, 98% of the work that I get, she's my reader, right? So
Oh,
she's my
okay,
reader.
yeah, yeah.
So one that just came in, you couldn't really see
Yeah.
her because I had the blurry background, but nonetheless, she's the one that she's on the other side reading the scripts and helping me out. So we got this thing going. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. Beautiful thing.
So before we wrap up, we're gonna go to something that's even more beautiful. You're gonna be a feature. We ain't gotta tell the role or anything like that, but you're gonna be featured with one of the, let me put it out the way I told you, the greatest director, movie producer of our generation, the one, the only 50 Cent. I love every single Power series that he's come out with. I'm probably one of his
Definitely.
biggest supporters. You're going to be part of the Raising Canaan, which I think is truly a brilliant piece of work. I've watched it a million times. I've watched that so many times. My people be like, Dre, aren't you? Look, I know every line word for word in there. And the reason why I think it's beautifully written, I've been waiting on the sequel to come out, and you're going to be part of that sequel. What was it about you that you think 50 Cent brought you on board?
Well, the showrunner you have is there's Sasha Penn, and he's one of the showrunners, and then obviously Courtney, is still, she's who she is, and
He's a great
uh,
writer.
big boss lady, and so I just think that what 50 is just a genius when it pertains to um, seeing in people sometimes what they don't see. And I think that what he's been through and the trauma that he's experienced in his own life, loss of his mother, the loss of his recently, I believe it was his grandfather, if I'm correct, and not too long ago, and just people that he loved, he's been through so much where he had to fight. So what happens is when you have so much street smarts, when you have just so much life experience, you tend to be a very good judge of character. You see who's really about that life, who's really serious about what they do. And so when he made that commitment to become, to get into the movie business and to get into this realm, he's gonna seek out after people who are just geniuses, who just are, and again, and I believe he's encouraged some of these people to even take their skill set to a whole nother level.
Oh,
One,
yeah.
because of who 50 is.
Mhm.
50 he took nothing and he made it. I can't even say something because I don't even think that even does it justice.
No.
He took nothing and turned it into I mean, a literal empire.
Yeah.
I mean, no pun intended. I using that terminology because I know he would always mess around with the empire universe and
That's
mess
pretty
around.
much
So
what it is. I mean, the Power Network is truly remarkable, but when you see the vision of it, I think a lot of people probably didn't see the vision. And we talked about this off camera. I kind of seen
yeah,
it shifting when the situation with Stars and him, and I just from that moment on seen the brilliance of who 50 Cent was. I probably feel he's a better businessman than music. And that's not to knock his music, but I'm more impressed with what I see him navigating. So my question to you is on that, had you even watched any of the Power series, and what was your take on it?
well, to be completely honest with you, um, I watched an episode or two. I never really gave it a chance because I just didn't. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I didn't think I was gonna like it, right? Because
Okay.
again, when you think of 50 Cent, you think of him as a rapper, and you just like,
Right.
oh, this is probably gonna be because like I don't, and no dig to Dame Dash, right? Dame Dash salutes to everything that he did in his career,
Mhm.
but Rockefeller, all that stuff or whatever, and his contribution in getting Jay-Z to the level that Jay-Z, has gotten or whatever. And I'm not getting into all the other politics, but when I would watch shows that he would put out, I just wasn't a fan. And again, I'm not disrespecting the man. He's at a much higher level than I am right now. But the quality and And you know, I just, again, I hate saying it because it sounds so cool, but I have to be transparent. I just felt like there wasn't much thought to it. It was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put a movie together. I'm gonna whip this up real quick,
Mhm.
and then I'm just gonna put it out there. So if you really think of the quality and what and the actors, and I just said to myself, man, like I don't really like this. This is really bad.
Mhm.
This is Nobody's really watching this. Nobody's giving it any love. So when I saw that, I automatically, again, which was ignorant of me,
Right.
assumed that any other person that would try to go in that direction or whatever the case may be is going to put out a similar product.
Right.
And to my surprise, that was farthest from the case. 50 said, listen, he learned from other people, realized again, and I encourage anybody, watch anything that Demon Dash puts out. You know, I commend him for going all out and doing what he needs to do.
Mhm.
But I just think when you think of quality, I'm big on quality. I'm big on visuals. I'm big on
Right.
excellence, you know, just a spirit of excellence. And if you're going to do something, give your all.
Mhm.
So at 50, you know, I didn't really watch anything because I didn't think anything of it. And then once I did, I'm gonna be completely transparent with you. The only series that I actually watched in its entirety
Mhm.
was Raising Kanan.
Right.
And that was because I was up for a potential role. So I'm like, oh, I gotta really lose myself in this or whatever the case is. And then when I watched the series, it was in my era. It was
Right.
everything that was on there. I said, man, I relate to everything on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was able to take my character and lose myself in it. It was so refreshing because it brought me back to my era when I was growing up in New York. So I
Yeah.
say that to say, um, you know, I say all that to say that ultimately, you know, for me, I think for me it was just, you know, it was the first time I regretted that I didn't watch all the other Power episodes and all the other shows. And so now, right after I'm done with you, I'm going to be watching all the Power Forces and all, because it really is that great. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm
Yeah.
just saying it because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
no, it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I, you know, so it's, yeah, but that ultimately is me being transparent, because I could have easily just thrown out some nonsense. Oh, I watched it every single one. Listen, no,
Yeah.
I haven't, but that was my mistake. But I learned my lesson. So
Yeah.
50, if you watching, anyone on the team, forgive me. But I'd rather be I'd rather be authentic, keep it 100, and let you respect me for being, you know, for being authentic, than for you to respect me for being a fraud. So,
You
you
know
know,
what? I think that you're gonna really bring that missing piece because I've watched every single episode. I watched them on. I share with you my viewpoints on Power, my viewpoints on Tommy, my viewpoints on the Power book, and clearly my favorite too is Raising Canaan because I can relate to that. I can relate to my mom when I got beat up, got jumped, and my mom said, "Hey, you're gonna go out here and you're gonna kick this boy's ass." And she sat there and she watched. And I was like kind of like you said, oh, I can resonate with every single aspect of that movie. I can relate to it. And was but I did see some pieces that I see coming in because I was always worrying about how are you gonna make this even better. And I thought probably the same way he did. I didn't see the Latino, the Puerto Rican community, and I'll say, when is this coming in? Because you're in New York, you're in this area. Where is this culture? And now he's bringing it in. So my question to you before we wrap up: what do you think you're going to bring to the second part of this beautiful written series?
what I'm gonna bring in is my true authentic self.
Okay.
And that to me is giving everything that I got, my blood, sweat, and tears,
Hmm.
not only because I was given an opportunity, but to honor the vision, the
Hmm.
visionaries, to honor the heartbeat behind what they're trying to accomplish and what they have accomplished with this series.
Hmm.
And knowing that I've already lost myself in this role. I am this character. You understand? So when I bring it to the table, there's no denying that I was born for this. And so what I bring in is like, man, listen, you don't got to tell him nothing. This man is already, he is that person. He might as well change his name to that character because that's how lost he is. So what I bring to the table is reverence, is honor, appreciation, gratitude, and that will all be showcased in the way that I deliver, you know, every single, moment of this character. And I'm just honored to be a part of the universe, and even in this capacity, in any capacity for that matter.
Angelo, what have you, people like myself don't get a chance to meet an icon like 50 Cent in the supporting cast that surrounds him. What's it, two-part question. What's it like? How closely is he to the cast with the project? And more importantly, does he allow you, because this is something you can relate to. You grew up in this era. Is he open? Is he the type of producer and individual that will sit down with you and say, I know you grew up in this. What can, is he going to listen to you to maybe add suggestions to what the writers may have already had? And does he allow you to bring your insight?
Well, that one, it's going to be, I wouldn't be able to answer that in its entirety, because I have unfortunately never had a chance to meet 50 in the flesh.
Okay.
So one of the things, a lot of people who have been in some of the series, unless you're a series regular, for instance, and you've already been signed on to be, a lot of people, may not see 50 at every set, and things of that nature. He's out and about. So I am waiting for the day to be able to sit down with him, and I look forward to that. But I haven't been able to have that opportunity as of yet because he's being pulled in different areas. Plus, he gets he does shows here and there, but just with the people that, like, for instance, with Sasha Penn and
Right.
and all the other people that are involved, they emulate. They basically know his heartbeat,
Okay.
and so it's almost like I get a glimpse of 50 through what they're doing, and so I think ultimately what he does is he's entrusted these individuals to take the vision that he has, and so again, every time I'm hearing them speak, or just understanding the heartbeat of this series and other things, um, I believe, to answer your question the best way I can, is that he really is, he's always had his ear to the streets because he came from that, but
Mm.
he also has his ear to a bunch of different dynamics because of the wealth, because of the level of success. So you got 50, who's a man that is seasoned in so many different aspects of life.
Right.
So
Right.
again, some people can realize that if they're successful now, what it was when you weren't, and right when you were trying to make it, and all the things, the obstacles that even now, that there was one of the gentlemen that was talking about the fact that there haven't been awards given to people from the Power universe, that they're not invited to the Jimmy
That
Kimmels and all
has
these other things.
always plagued me. I'm like, how can you not give this man an award for beautifully written pieces of work that really is telling the story about, like we talked about, this is our life. No matter how you
They
want to look at it, these are our role models. This what
100%.
he's telling is the streets.
The viewership is literally quadruple the amount of some of people's favorite shows. And
Right.
this was talked about recently. And so what happens is, my own opinion,
Mhm.
and I'll say this really briefly, is because of the fact that 50 defied the odds. He proved to people, like, listen, I did all this, I went through all of that. Listen, I fought my way to where I'm at now. None of you guys handed me a damn thing. I fought for this. And so when you go against the grain and the system and the capacity that 50, it's so unorthodox. People want to be able to say, I'm the reason why. I'm the reason why. No, that man said, listen, I'm going to do it my way, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. And so when what people try to do is they think they punish him by not allowing certain things and accolades and things. But in all actuality, it just makes people more aware
Right.
of how much there's certain people that hate on this man because he didn't have to kiss nobody's ring.
He
You
definitely
understand?
moves in
He didn't have
silence.
to bow. He didn't have to exactly. He
Yeah.
didn't have to bow down to no man. He did what he did and stay true to himself. And I'd rather be that guy, live my life until God takes me, knowing that I was authentic and my true self, and that no one could ever rob me of that. And so to me, the ones who are not giving him and people, actors, platforms, and things of that nature, it's really because of 50 and their envy of, man, I had to go through all of this. I had to kiss this button, that button, and the other button, do all this other stuff. And this man did it, you know what I mean, just with his grit, with his determination. And I think that that's what frustrates people, and that's what people try to keep things away. But as we could see, nothing's gonna stop this man. And I just pray, protection over him and his family, and I just pray continued success for anybody associated with that man, because he's a genius. And like I said, I just pray for the opportunity to shake his hand one day, and because his life is an inspiration to me. And so I just pray that one day get just to shake his hand and just thank him for being him. Forget about all the accolades.
Right.
Thank him for being him.
Yeah,
And choosing the people that he has around him, to represent his movement, the writers, the directors, the showrunners, and everybody
right.
involved in this universe.
You're definitely gonna get that opportunity. Before we wrap up, thank you so much for taking the time to come
No,
on
thank you.
and share such a great, impactful story. When you see 50, tell them Andre the Beast said what's going on. What can the
Definitely.
viewers, what do you want the viewers to take away from such a beautiful story? Leave them with that beast mindset.
Well, first and foremost, regardless of where you are in life, regardless of what step on the ladder you may feel that you are on, you're worth it. There's everything about you is special. Everything about you is unique. Everything about you is meant for something. And no matter how many times you've gotten beat up in life, whether it be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, as I shared earlier, no matter how many scars you have, remind yourself that the scars are a reminder that you've been healed. Okay? And I'm going to say that again. The scars are reminders that you've been healed. Because you see a scar and you be like, oh, I remember this happened to me. But you know what? Look at your hand.
Mm.
It's healed up. You may still see it, but it's healed. So whatever scars you may have, whether it be mentally, emotionally, all the things that you go through in life, remember that you can't change the past, but your today, there's so much you could do today. And whatever it is that you're chasing after, you're good enough. You can make it. Listen, take it from a overweight, heavy-set, light-skinned Puerto Rican, losing some of my hair, great. I mean, I have everything going against me. It's struggling financially, getting no's and no's. I'm not no pretty boy. I ain't I ain't got no six-pack. I may have a keg or something, but I just want you to understand that your life truly matters. And again, you're going to hear millions of people try to inspire you. Your life matters. And why it matters? Because we all have different fingerprints. We all were made for something. So somebody may be great and they may be doing great things, but you may be doing, you're born to do something great in another capacity. There's somebody that looks up to you, regardless of how poor you may feel that you may be, no matter where you are in life. So if I can encourage anybody, remember, your life matters, you matter, your passions and your dreams, it's never too late to chase them. Look at me starting in my 40s. I'm in my 40s, and I started acting, and I'm married with children. And you even tell me, I was just at an event 3 days ago where there was blind artists that they did paintings. These women were blind. And I'm looking at pictures of women that said, listen, I'm not going to let nothing stop me. So listen, I say this to say that if no one ever told you that they love you, I love you. If no one ever told you that they believe in you, I believe in you. Let me be one person. Let me be that one person that extends himself. And they put my social media up, and they're more than welcome. DM me. If you feel like giving up, DM me. If you feel like no one understands, DM me. I may not be able to answer everything that you're going through, but I love you. And I want you to learn how to love yourself while I learn how to love myself every single day. I haven't arrived, but I'm closer. I'm getting closer. And I believe the same for you. Love you, for real, for real.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you tune in for the second half of the Power Universe and watch Raising Canaan, the second season. Is it the second season? The second half. This is called the second half. Angelo, how can the people reach out to you and follow you and support you on your journey?
I'm usually on Instagram. So my Instagram is actually my name. The only thing that's separated is the underscore. So it's Angelo and then underscore Maldonado Jr. So it's my actual government name. And the only difference is, like I said, the underscore, because somebody had my name for some reason. I don't know who it is, but I'm gonna have to search for that person and take it back. But it's Angelo underscore Maldonado Jr. And that's usually where I'm at. You know, I kind of hang out there. I like my little Instagram. You know what I'm saying? And
Okay.
I do have Facebook as well. You know, and you get me on Facebook as well. But that's pretty much where I'm at.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you,
this
Kevin.
has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.